Hi everyone, it's Rin here. Hi guys, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my room. It's been a nice trip to Milan with my brother. Just saw some, great sights. For those who've been to Milan, you know that the cathedral is something to behold. Visited quite a few galleries. The weather was great. People from Milan are really stylish, like a lot of Italian people seem to be, which is great. Rather good-looking, stylish, elegant. Milan is a really nice, harmoniously beautiful city, I would say. And so I'll probably go back at some point, and I think my brother would too, because I dare say he enjoyed it. But this is not the topic of this video. This is kind of becoming a meme at this point, me saying this sentence, but no, the topic of this video is altruism. At this point, I'm not even sure. I've got to a point where, like, with my videos, where like sometimes I can't even tell anymore whether I've made a video on the topic or not, because like I made over 200 videos, and it's been over a year now that I've made videos. So imagine, like, in a year, over 200. It's like more than a video every 2 days. I don't know what's up with me. I don't know if I'm really an introvert after all. So the question is, have I already made a video on altruism? Probably. I have certainly made videos that referenced altruism in the past. I made a video called My Strange INFJ Empathy, which is obviously about empathy, not about altruism, but in that video I link empathy and altruism. And I've mentioned plenty of times that, as far as I'm concerned, altruism is something, a virtue, if you like, to which I relate in a peculiar way. And I think that in this video I'm going to try to detail a little bit what I mean, and see if I can extrapolate from my experience to the INFJ experience, taken as a broad category. Altruism, we're going to do something. I think that it would be wiser to look for a definition. I like doing that. It's my TI side. Disinterested and selfless concern for the well-being of others. So I would say that, if we take that particular definition of altruism, most people are going to want to say that they identify with it. So the question is not so much to tell whether INFJs are altruistic or not, because, again, it really looks like it's not something that has to do with type. More to the extent that INFJs are altruistic, in what way are they altruistic? And that's really the interesting question here, I think. What is the brand of INFJ altruism? Because for a long time, I thought about INFJs as altruistic, like my dad is altruistic. And my dad is an ENFJ, by the way. Because to me, altruism was just something that I associated with the closest example in my life, which is the example of my dad, which is a very practical, social kind of altruism. But I'm thinking that perhaps altruism is not only that. And that I've just been under the influence of my dad to the extent that, and it's normal because not only is he my dad, but he's an ENFJ, so he's a very influential man. I've been really shaped into being convinced that altruism was this practical kind of being, being helpful to other people in very practical ways. Or, just like being there if you know that someone is going to care, helping, like driving someone somewhere, things that involve like your presence, physical presence. And as a result, a social presence. The thing is, I think that if we were to use that definition of altruism, then I would have to say I'm not altruistic. like, if someone asks me to drop them somewhere, and I can do that, I will do that. The thing is, I'm not there a lot of the time. I'm not there because I'm in my world, I'm in my thoughts, and I know that this is not an excuse, but it's what it is. And sometimes I'm like really engrossed in some writing I'm doing, and I turn my phone off, so like people can, I turn the internet off, so people can try to contact me, and that won't happen. And sometimes it's too late. I've got messages, and so I would say that if my friends were, I'm saying real life friends, were consulted and asked about this kind of pragmatic, practical kind of altruism, social altruism in a way, I'd say that they would most likely deem me to be not altruistic. But the thing is, isn't there also some kind of emotional and psychological altruism? Which is not as abstract, because that's sometimes, I think, the fallacy or the sophism that people like my dad, and despite the worship and adoration that I feel, but that's a bit exaggerated, but the love that I feel for him, my dad would say, that's altruism, and often he would like chide me, or, I mean, again, chiding is too strong. He'd be like, here, you should help people more, you should be more altruistic because people pay you back, and it's about actions, not just words, right? And actually, I think that's very true. I think that being altruistic and helping people and being a good friend, for instance, not that you need to be altruistic only with your friends, that's not true. You can be altruistic in terms of making donations to, charities and things like that for more universal purposes or global purposes. But it's true that these are actions, and people who constantly harp on about with words about having qualities, having virtues, including being altruistic and telling others how they should be altruistic or how they should have certain virtues, do not thereby show that they are embodiments of those virtues. And this is something that is very interesting in the behavior of people sometimes online, is that some people live in this dream world where they think that just by talking about a virtue or talking about possessing the virtue, that means they possess it. No. They possess it if they embody the possession of it, which means that they act in accordance with it, which is kind of an Aristotelian take on the topic, but I think an irrelevantly Aristotelian take in this case. So yeah, it's about acts. I fully agree with my dad, but the fallacy is that acts means, let's say, social, physical acts. Being physically present, dropping someone, helping them get to a place, or helping them in whatever capacity, lending them money, or it can be lots of different ways. Yeah, those are practical acts. But if someone talks to you and you're willing to give like an hour or two to just listening to them and giving insight, if you happen to be there, maybe you're not a very physically available person, not a very socially available person, but when you're available and the person talks to you about their issues, you're a very good listener and you're willing to give insight and you can listen and you're interested in the other person and you're genuinely feeling their sufferings and you want to help. Isn't that an act? Of course it's an act. And perhaps this is what I mean by emotional or psychological altruism. And I would say that from this perspective, I'm much more altruistic. And we'll see if you guys think that INFJs are more altruistic in this sense. A potential complication is that we're so altruistic in this other sense that I just defined or described, that this makes us potentially targets of narcissists, people who take advantage of this psychological and emotional altruism, and who capture our emotions and hold us hostage and end up torturing us in a way. And so we have to protect ourselves against that and have boundaries. So even on that front, sometimes we may appear not to be as altruistic as we could be. I think it comes more from a defense mechanism than from an absence of an altruistic tendency. It's like protecting yourself against your own tendency or temptation or proclivity towards psychological and emotional altruism. But this is definitely something that I identify with more, and I'll finish by saying that my dad is awful for that. And again, I'm sorry because he's my dad, and I don't want to say bad things about him. But if I open up to him, I don't do that anymore. My brother stopped doing that many, many years ago. He's an INFP, so maybe that doesn't help. You talk, and my dad my dad is not a good listener. He'll want to help, but he'll just tell people what their problems are. He's not a good listener. He doesn't make room for the other person to open up about their things. And so to me, it's a lack of altruism, taking the other into account in its own way. Now, practically speaking, physically speaking, socially speaking, there is altruism on this side, but psychologically speaking and emotionally speaking, I don't find that there's that much altruism, although it has the appearance of it. I think that from this particular perspective, not even talking about myself, but even my mother, is much more altruistic. Even though she is not altruistic in the sense that, in the first sense. So that was my little monologue on altruism. I'll be very curious to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, and whether you identify more with the first kind, more with the second kind, whether you agree that those two kinds can be kind of separated, whether you identify with neither or both. All right, see you soon, guys. Have a lovely Wednesday evening. Ciao. Oh no, Thursday. Sorry.